Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the 8-Bit Adventures podcast. I am your host, Sean Hayes, and with me is my wonderful co-host, as always, Courtney Bolin.
Hey, everybody.
Yes, so Courtney's feeling much better this week. We are back
Yeah.
to bring you some gaming news. So thank you all for sticking with me last week for our short episode, since I didn't have any conversation to bounce Courtney off of, so we blazed
Sorry,
right
folks.
through everything.
I was really not feeling well at
It's
all,
okay.
so.
It's fine.
Yeah.
But we've got some stuff to talk about this week,
Yeah.
including some surprise news of things that are actually happening. So,
Yeah.
um, so yeah. I
So,
mean,
Sean, do you
aside
want
from
to
that,
start with?
it's a very, I don't want to say it's a gloomy day because it was really nice today, but it kind of like went from a nice day and then the rain kind of moved in, but it's like a relaxing rain. Like it cooled
It's
off.
not a cold. It's not a cold rain either. It's not like one of those super super cold rains.
No, I mean it's
Um,
pretty cool outside, but it's
it's cool
it's
outside, but
like
it's not like that
it's
icy cold.
cozy weather.
Yes,
Yeah.
cozy. I like that. Yep.
Yeah. Which
Yep.
apparently cozy core is apparently a thing. Like I don't know if you so
Yep.
like cottage core is a thing, but then
Yep.
there's also like goblin core or swamp core, which is like cottage core, but it's about like mushrooms and goblins and like earthiness.
Oh, so it's Caduceus core.
Kind of like if Caduceus was a goblin.
Okay, alright,
Yeah,
I can kinda get
it's a
behind that.
little funky. So, but yeah, should we get into our quickfire news, Courtney?
I think that's a good idea, Sean.
All right, start things off. Animal Crossing. They said they were going to do an update, but it looks like it's like I don't actually know if there's going to be an update for people that did this last year, but just for May Day, the sort of June wedding event, and there's one more. There's one more seasonal event that also happened last year, but basically, like spring events
Yeah,
are coming back. Uh,
nice.
that update is currently live. So
Yep.
that'll update. The events themselves won't necessarily happen right away, although I mean the May Day one happens on March or May 1st. But like the wedding
Yeah,
one
so
doesn't happen
Saturday.
until June. Um, so a little unclear as to whether there's going to be any new stuff happening or if it was just an update to say like, hey, remember these are things that are coming up. So
Yeah,
be on the lookout for those events.
fun. So, years after its announcement at E3, we now have a demo available for Tunic.
Yeah.
Um,
So for those that might not remember, since it was eons ago, and I believe it might have been E3 2017 or 2018, which was like 3,000 years ago when the ring was forged and Sauron ruled the land.
in the before times.
This is basically like a little Zelda-like game where you play as a little fox person. Like it has little cutesy like cell shaded Zelda type graphics with Dark Souls gameplay. As it turns out,
Interesting.
there's a lot of rolling around to avoid attacks with like from big scary monsters, but in a cutesy art
Mhm.
style. And it's basically like if Link was a little fox.
If Link was a little fox.
So, but yeah. Next up, Monster Hunter Rise 2.0 update is live today. This
Woohoo!
brings us Elder Dragons Teostra, Kushala Daora, and Chameleos returning for the first time. It's a big old chameleon dragon.
Cool.
Also introducing other monsters that they did not show in the showcase, including fan favorite Basil Juice from Monster Hunter World, the perennial bomber wyvern that will fly in unexpectedly and drop like explosive scales down on everybody. as well as new Apex monsters. So Apex monsters are kind of the shtick for this game. So they're going to introduce a whole bunch more. This is where they're introducing variants and deviants, as they call them.
Ah, okay.
So that is live today.
Nice. Nice. So keeping with the Monster Hunter news, Monster Hunter Stories 2 will be releasing July 9th, with some crossover content with Monster Hunter Rise.
Yep. And we'll
So
talk about these a little bit more in our deep dive because there's a lot of stuff going on. Last up, surprise news. Hocus Pocus 2 actually in development. This is no longer just like a rumor. This was confirmed by Disney. It is happening for Disney Plus. So, like the original, no theatrical release. But yeah, apparently filming is set to take place this summer in Salem.
Nice. Oh,
Yeah,
that'll be interesting.
Well, so they said that no word if the actor and actress for Allison and Max are coming back.
Yeah.
But uh, Kathy Najimy, Bette Midler, and Sarah Jessica Parker are apparently all returning
Nice.
to play the witches,
Yes.
which is a little weird. Like, we don't know how they're
Yeah.
gonna resurrect them after they were destroyed, but you know, okay.
We're gonna
So,
figure it out. They're gonna
yeah.
figure it out. I don't know.
Yeah. There is apparently a novel as well, like a novel that's supposed to be a sequel. So whether that novel is going to serve as a screenplay, or rather just the dialogue and the story beats for this film, a little unclear. But yeah, no, it's happening. It's
So
really happening.
I'm a little bit. So you said that they're gonna start filming this summer. So we're not gonna get it for this Halloween, but probably next.
Maybe. I mean,
You know.
that would be the time that they debut it.
Oh yeah, no, it wouldn't be. I
And
firmly
I
believe that
could
they
see
would
just
not
like
debut
wrapping
it any
production
other
and then
time
sitting on
on
it until
Halloween.
Halloween. Because it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to release it at a different time period.
Yeah, sometime in
I think
October.
that's kind of what happened with the original, is they bumped it. Because it was
Yeah.
supposed to be a Halloween release, and they bumped it because of, I believe, Nightmare Before Christmas.
That makes sense.
If I recall my
Mhm.
facts correctly. Or my trivia correctly, we should say.
Yeah.
So yeah. And that's what we got for our quickfire news this week. Unless, Courtney, do we have anything
No, no,
waving my arms
it's
around as if to say any unexpected news?
nothing that I have been able to
Okay,
focus on.
all right.
Let's put it that way.
Oh, you know what? I thought there was something involving Build-A-Bear. I
Yep.
think they got. I think Bulbasaurs are back on the online store,
I
like outfits
know
for
that the
Bulbasaurs.
Snubbles are back. Eevee, Pikachu. There's also a new Alice in Wonderland um set that's out that includes an online exclusive of Cheshire Cat.
Okay.
Um, and there's a bunch of different little outfits for like Alice and I think Mad Hatter and the Queen.
Okay.
Um, or maybe it's the White Rabbit, but there's a few outfits and a Cheshire Cat online exclusive for that. So yes, I do get those types of updates.
All right. So if that takes
Because
care of our quickfire news, let's do a deep dive on Monster Hunter and then a very special topic. All right, so I just wanted to talk about Monster Hunter because I
yeah.
love Monster Hunter. So yeah, they're also doing a crossover with Ninjala, which is some kind of like squad based Splatoon like game that's out on Switch right now.
Okay.
Where there's Monster Hunter costumes in that game. So they're not crossing over to Monster Hunter; it's the other way around. Um,
Okay.
But yeah, so Apex monsters like Bath Time Dragon, Mizutsune, Diablos, which was featured heavily in the trailers for the Monster Hunter movie. The sort of big horned dragon that has wings, doesn't fly. Rathalos, which is sort of king of the skies and fire breathing dragon. Um, Possibly more, and they'll be appearing outside of the Rampage quests so that you don't have to go through the sort of awful tower defense mode for Monster Hunter, which is
Oh,
really
nice.
what Rampage is. It's just tower defense. Um, where you just have waves of monsters come in and you are literally
Yeah.
manning stations of siege weapons to fight them off,
Okay.
to try and prevent them
Alright.
from breaking through gates. So now they'll just show up in the quests, and you can encounter them normally as Monster Hunter was meant to be played. So, uh, but yeah, so we got that. I'm super excited for the new monsters coming in.
I'm really excited to so it's I've been talking with Joe a little bit about this, and it's like Monster Hunter is not the kind of game that I would get enjoyment from playing, but I greatly enjoy watching you play. Um, I love the soundtrack. I love seeing all the different monsters. Um, I love the palicos. Like they have a
I mean,
very
yeah,
special.
Palicos and Palamutes are probably the best part of Monster Hunter.
Mhm.
Well, and for Palamutes, Monster Hunter Rise specifically.
Yeah, but
Sadly, I mean, I wish so. Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, I believe, had a mode where you played as Palicos. Like you could choose to play as a Palico instead of your hunter, and you would get like special skills that you could use and like bombs and stuff. Yeah, it was great.
wait, which Monster Hunter was this?
I believe it was Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, which is on the
That
Switch. It was the first one to release for the Switch.
I was gonna say, I
That
believe that I
said,
have that one.
the issue is uh, that uses it's an older style Monster Hunter because it came out before World. So
Yeah, I
it
prefer
doesn't have the
Generations
quality of
Ultimate.
life adjustments that World and Rise do. And it also suffers from a user interface designed for the 3DS. Um,
Ah,
so it doesn't like the graphics are fine. Like, the graphic quality is fine.
yeah.
Um, like it's not spectacular or impressive like Rise is. Um, it's the fact that the UI is hideous. And there are like sometimes when you just cannot read words on it because of
Yeah.
the font choice and the color choice, where like they will have words in red against a black background in a font that makes it difficult to read what it is. Um,
Well, that's no fun.
and because they do that to emphasize important things, that's a problem.
I'm like, yeah, no, if I can't read it, I can't know what the important stuff
Yeah.
is.
I
Like,
mean, that
yeah,
said, yeah, it had I forget what the mode is called, but it's essentially Palico mode. Uh, and
I
it's great.
I might need to give that another look through. Because yeah, because I greatly have enjoyed watching you play Monster Hunter. Um, and I'm really looking forward to seeing all of these new monsters. Um, especially these Chameleos.
Yeah, so
Like,
Chameleos hasn't been in for a long time, and has
yeah.
been very much requested. So Chameleos looks like if a chameleon um, had wings like a wyvern, right? And its tail at the base,
So chameleon body,
yeah,
as we have a wyvern here.
yeah,
So wings.
and then the wings, um,
Mhm.
chameleon tail, but at the base of the tail, it's like flared out, and it has a similar structure to like a oh, um, I'm trying to think of a shape like a
Mhm.
plant shape that I represent, but all I can think of is one of the sculptures from Beetlejuice. Um,
Okay.
where and so it's basically almost like an oak leaf. That's what I'm thinking of.
There we go.
An oak
Okay.
leaf shape. Um,
Yep.
it's flared out at the base like that, and then it has a little curl at the end. Um,
Oh, okay.
its whole shtick is so it has an elongated tongue that it can lash out at people with. Um,
Yep.
it has poison abilities, uh, and its whole claim to fame is it turns invisible.
I would imagine that that would be part of it. It's based off of a chameleon. Yes, I would definitely
Yeah.
expect that.
Um, but it has so unlike other poison based monsters in Monster Hunter, what it can do is like it can generate a cloud of poison like directly around it, and then if it flaps its
Mhm.
wings, it forces the cloud out further and further. Which is something
Oh,
that like
that
not a lot
is
of other monsters
wow.
have.
Okay.
And it makes an interesting
Oh,
mechanic if you think about it, like for D&D, where
mhm.
something like so imagine dropping like a cloud killer stinking cloud, and then if the monster like performs a certain action, like it turns into a ring and spreads outward
Yep. Oof.
like
That's
every
gotta
turn.
be yeah, that's gonna be rough. And
Yeah.
now does it also? Because I was just sent a picture of it. Does it also stab with its horn or its
Um
nose? Are we calling it a
I mean I
nose
think
or a
it
horn?
can. I've never fought it, so I don't quite know what its attack patterns are. Um
Okay.
but I'm sure
Definitely
it has some sort of ramming move.
yeah, definitely something that's gonna be, rough to go against, and I can't wait to see you go against
And
it.
its armor set is a witch's outfit.
Hmm?
But it's like its outfit, its armor set outfit is like a witch's hat and like a big like poofy witch's robe, like black mage robes.
Yep.
Um, but it's like purple and like scaly.
Okay, so kinda going along with that same color.
Yeah, that's how the armor sets work in monster is
Yeah.
because the idea is you're crafting it directly from the monster materials is you end up
Yep.
looking like the monster a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah,
Um, but
that'll
in
be
addition to
fun.
Rise, Monster Hunter Stories, so we'll have a lot of crossover sort of promotions with Rise. So basically cosmetic stuff in between the two of them. Uh, so Monster Hunter Stories, for those that like kind of like the background of Monster Hunter, but maybe not necessarily the gameplay, this is a more traditional RPG where it's turn-based battles, uh, and you get a hunter weapon and you fight alongside a monster buddy or a monstie uh, that you can like ride around and you can perform like double like buddy attacks and you're gonna fight other monsters as you progress through the game.
Cool. That'll
So
be
it's like halfway between like a Monster Hunter Final Fantasy type game and Pokemon because all the monsters so like there's elemental
Yep.
attacks in Monster Hunter and so monsters have all sorts of different elemental weaknesses and elemental attacks and status effects and all that stuff.
Mhm. Yeah, that'll be interesting to
Yeah.
see that. Is that something that you will be getting, Sean? And that
Very
we will
likely, yeah.
possibly be seeing? That is something we'll be seeing on 8-Bit Plays?
I don't know if I'm gonna play it on stream or not. That all depends on I know Skyward Sword also comes out in July. So I mean that's always a whole thing. Um
Fair.
and I can't predict like what will be popular at the time.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
because
I
I
know that
don't
that
like
will be
unless there's some other content drops for other games that like might be better to play on stream. Um,
yeah.
you know, just I mean, it's the problem is playing RPGs with like big stories are difficult to play on stream because
Yeah,
if something ends up being I mean, let's say that Monster Hunter Stories is maybe like a 60-hour story. Um,
yeah.
for me, that ends up being 30 streams, assuming that it actually only takes me 60 hours. Uh, so if I play twice a week, that ends up being 15 weeks, which
Yeah.
is 4 months of one
Yeah.
game being played on stream. So, uh, and it would be to progress through like a single story, and not like with Rise, and
Yeah.
more traditional Monster Hunter games. It's you go in and you play like a hunt or two, and it's more about doing like single matches. It's similar to like how if you end up doing like a MOBA, how like you're not in a
Okay,
MOBA for the
yeah.
story, you're in it to watch the gameplay being done.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah,
Uh,
those look
but I also wanted
um
to talk about and the reason why I bring that up is because Saga Frontier is out on Switch, and I haven't
yep.
gotten to play it yet, and I'm mad. Um, but mostly because I haven't had time. But it's also I've been racking my brain trying to find my issue of EGM Squared from May 1998 that has a miniature strategy guide in it for that and for parts of Breath of Fire 3. And I don't know where it went. And I'm mad. And I'm mad because the whole point of keeping it for 23 years? 23,
98,
yeah, 98. Yeah, that would be 23 years.
24 years this May.
Um I guess. Yeah. Yeah. But the whole point of keeping it that
Yeah,
long was in
23,
case
you're
I
right.
needed it.
Yeah, I can't math. But
Was
still, the whole
in
point of
case I
keeping it
needed
for
it,
over 20
and
years.
now I need it, and now I don't have it. And so I'm mad. Um, but Saga Frontier, I think I may have talked about it a little bit last week, and I don't know if we talked about it a little bit the week before. Um, but it is essentially it has a lot of similarities conceptually with Octopath Traveler, in that there are a whole bunch of different main characters, each with their own storyline. That their stories are sort of connected in that they all take place in the same world, but like are also distinct from each other.
Yeah.
And the
I'm not sure,
difference,
I can't remember if we've talked about this on stream or off, because
yeah,
I
I
do
can't remember
remember
either.
the details.
Yeah, the difference being there's also a pool of like I don't know somewhere between 30 to 50 NPCs that you can recruit to your party. That is a shared pool of NPCs, and some of them can be recruited by certain characters, and some of them can't. Uh, and so it gives you a lot of freedom to build your party how you want, to like mix and match different NPCs with their own way of doing things,
Yep.
um, to then progress that character's story, because each of the main characters have their own little quirks and how they do things. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's a game that focuses a lot more on exploration and sort of little stories than one overarching big one, which is kind of the
Okay.
whole point of Octopath as well.
Yeah.
And it the thing is that Octopath I think suffers is that uh I don't necessarily know if the world felt open enough. Whereas this is billed as an open world game where like you do a lot of exploring. Uh,
Yeah.
and you also do like genre jumping between worlds. So it's not like that was the other. So Octopath is set in one world,
Yeah.
uh, that your characters are all wandering around the kingdom, basically. This
Yep.
is set in almost like a multiverse. Um, so like you know, where there's robots, but also fantasy monsters, but also 80s cyberpunk, and all that sort of stuff.
Just mix all the genres together.
It's great. Uh, and I've just been looking really forward to giving this a go. Um,
Mhm.
but again, because I don't know how long a particular story would take, I'm a little
Yeah,
hesitant to do it on stream. Um,
which is fair.
and so here's the other problem. So this game originally released on PS1. Okay.
Whew.
So your options back then were uh, Game Facts or Game FAQs. I don't know how people pronounce it. Which has basically text file walkthrough guides that are user generated.
Yep.
Uh, like mid 90s text file
Yep.
formats. A lot of ASCII art. Or paperback guides, right?
Yeah. Whew.
So yeah, engineering, yeah, Prima guides, yeah. I don't know if there was a Prima guide for this game, but along that same vein. So obviously the issue with paperback guides is they go out of print,
Oh, yeah.
right? Basically, once the game kind of dies out in popularity, they don't make anymore.
Nope.
With this being
And
remastered, they're not suddenly and now that it's the internet, they're not suddenly going to start printing these guides again. So if you look up
a
on
lot of
Amazon,
the
there's like
publishers have straight up shut down
there
too.
are 2 guides available on Amazon, just 2 copies of the guide. They're attempting to be sold for like $500 to $600 a piece.
Sounds
And
about
apparently
right.
they're also not great from what the reviews say. Uh, so yeah. Uh, so basically my options are user generated text files that I then also have to like combine together and do sort of like the conspiracy theorist Stardew Valley notebook takers and build this like whole sort of thick notebook of essentially creating my own strategy guide from all these different files.
Yep.
Or which is not going to be an option, prohibitively expensive physical copy of a guide.
Yeah.
Because here's the other thing: nobody's making wikis for it because it already
That's
exists. They're just doing
yeah.
like tips and tricks or whatever, but they're not doing walkthroughs.
Yeah.
And that makes me mad.
Yeah,
I will
I
also
always
note
love a good
apparently,
game
so this
walkthrough.
is out cross-platform as well. So it's out on like PS4 or PS4, PS5, Steam. I think it's out on Xbox and Switch. So you can get it like pretty much anywhere. Um,
Yeah.
and apparently the remaster is pretty good. Like they do a great job from like recreating and cleaning up a lot of the graphics.
Yeah.
So
Well, when you go from PS1,
yeah.
think about how much we've progressed quite a ways.
Well, also, I mean, it is Square Enix, so they do have the problem of like throwing out code or losing code. Uh,
Yes. Yes, they do.
we'll pour one out for that Final Fantasy VIII there. Um, so, but yeah, no, I'm
Yeah.
super stoked for it. I think I'll just have to just sit down and just start taking notes on things because it's also the combat system's pretty complex and the character building is pretty complex. Where it's based on what equipment. So there are different types of characters in the game, and how they learn skills and fight in combat is different depending on the type of character, and how they learn skills is dependent on the type of character. Uh, and they all have their own different little subsystems and everything. So as an example, uh, so humans can use swords or guns. Um, and to a certain extent magic, but magic's weird. So we're gonna
Yeah.
leave magic off. Because like you have to try to learn magic. Uh, but like if you learn one type of magic, it can lock you out of another type of magic. And you might
Oh,
also not
okay.
succeed in learning that magic, and which locks you out from it altogether. Um, and that's not necessarily like character specific. But anyway, so
Yeah.
for swords and guns, it's um, using particular skills like builds up points that unlock other skills, um, but the ones that you gain access to are based on the skills that you use. And with swords, you can learn skills mid combat, and with guns, you can only learn skills after combat. Same goes with magic. You only learn magic spells after combat.
Yeah.
So that's humans. There are monsters, which they learn skills by absorbing other monsters. By basically dealing a killing blow to another monster that has a skill, they learn that skill. They have a list of skills like Pokemon, and you can only keep a certain amount.
Okay.
But you can turn into a different monster if you know a specific set of skills.
Oh, that's kinda cool.
So they list it, the example that I found was like if you know it's like ink shot and, thunderstorm and tsunami and I don't know, some other water type skill or whatever, you turn into a kraken, sort of a thing. But like if you know those 4 specific skills,
Yeah.
and your stats, like they only grow when you change into different types of monsters.
Okay.
Robots don't have any stat growth at all and get stats and learn skills entirely via equipment that they equip.
Yeah.
Because it's accessing different equipments
Yeah,
and
that
weapon
and that then
systems.
that makes sense in that kind of
All
setup.
very thematically appropriate, but it makes for a very complicated, crunchy weapon or combat system.
Yeah.
So like the only way to upgrade your robot heroes is to get them new stuff. Like they don't learn skills like by using skills over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's mystics, which like they have magic like humans do, but they sort of learn skills the way monsters do. In that they have access to rings, boots, and gloves, or like a ring,
Yep.
a boot, and a glove. And you use one of those to kill a monster, you absorb that monster, and you get a skill that's associated with that piece of equipment.
Okay.
So yeah, it's it's a lot.
I can see why a walkthrough would be very, very helpful.
Yep.
Um, there
And
there
this was just
is
so
apparently
the article
a
was just
wiki, but
like,
I'm not sure that if it has a full, like, walkthrough of it.
what was that?
I said there is a wiki, saga.fandom.com,
Yeah, I don't
um,
know.
but I'm not sure how much of a walkthrough that.
Yeah, yeah, we'll have to. I mean, I'll check it out definitely. But like, what was
Yeah.
great about this
Yep.
article was that it had like a brief overview of like the whole story for
Yep.
that character, the recommended party, and a strategy for like how to build each of the characters in that party, and like the limitations and the strengths of each character, and like how to play that main character.
Yep.
Um, for example, one of the recommended starting heroes is called Red. Um, and he's like, quintessential like good guy with a sword, like anime good guy with a sword. Uh, his special stick is that he's a Mighty Morphin action hero. Like he can turn into a monster, and like get all sorts of like cool abilities and everything. The drawback
Oh,
is, he cannot turn into a monster if there are other members in the party that are able to see him. So I think the case is like they either have to be unconscious, blinded, or robots in order for him to transform into a monster. Unless you're
interesting.
solo. But like you don't do that in a party-based RPG. So yeah.
Yeah.
So it creates like an interesting scenario for you to build around. Like you just run with a party of robots and then only turn into a monster when like the fifth party member goes down.
Yep.
So, but
Yeah.
yeah, very weird stuff like that. So that's I mean, maybe we do. It's also new Pokemon Snap is also out this week, so there's also a question of whether that gets played on stream. I don't know. I also don't know. I'm sure there's quite a bit of replay value with it for people that are interested in like trying to do everything. I don't know how much
Yep.
replay value there will be for me, particularly. Um, so if I were to pick it up and play it on stream, like it might be like 2 or 3 sessions.
Yeah.
Uh, because I would assume it also might get a bit repetitive because you're kind of doing um like I would imagine there's not a lot of randomized elements. It's often a lot of like what can you do to make things happen?
Mhm.
Which makes it different from say Monster Hunter where you never know what other monsters are going to show up.
Yep.
Or whether it's while you're riding a monster kill your target. Or other fun things like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It might be maybe we give it a shot. Uh, but try and play through a single storyline and see how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that, like, because we've kind of talked about Pokemon Snap a little bit before, and, like, it's not structured enough for me. Like, I really
Yeah.
it's one of like, I like games with a lot of structure, that's why I really like puzzle games, that's why I
Well, to
Fire
clarify, Courtney, it is
Emblem
on rails. Like you're not
Hmm?
just like you don't get to take your little bubble craft and just like go open world everywhere. Uh, at least it as if it's keeping in a similar style to the original game, it is literally an on rails photography shooter.
Yeah, but I think the thing that I'm thinking is, where it's not like you're given assignments of you have to get this Pokemon. Um,
I think you are in like
okay.
your journal.
I mean, that's something that I wish I don't know if there's a demo of it available.
I don't
Um,
know. That said, I mean, there's going to be plenty of streams that feature it
yeah, and so,
this
like,
weekend.
I'm not really drawn to it, but I would definitely be willing to watch a couple of streams of it and see if I like it.
Yeah,
Um, because it's definitely, up my alley, but I need that little bit more
yeah,
structure in my games,
yeah.
which is probably why I love, Stardew so much.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but
So,
yeah.
but yeah, the search for EGM squared May 1998 shall forevermore continue. I can find all my old Nintendo Power magazines, but I can't find that one. Ugh. I mean, I had 2 copies of Banjo Kazooie Player's Guide, Strategy Guide. Two
Oh, yeah?
copies, same book. I can't find that one, and I'm mad. I'm mad. It was also like so basically that issue because it had a whole bunch of RPGs in it was kind of what got me interested in game design.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
just because like looking at because like I mean I didn't really get introduced to RPGs until I mean Super Mario RPG was the first one and I didn't understand what I was doing at all because I had never played one before. And I mean at that point I had never even really played like any Zelda before. Since I hadn't played Zelda until Ocarina of Time. Like I didn't actually play A Link to the Past when it came out. Um, because parents didn't get it. I was limited to what my parents would get.
I didn't
And
get it
so
either, but,
I think after that, there like Pokemon would have been I think the big one where I really started to understand RPGs
yeah.
and figure stuff out. And even that Pokemon's kind of a special RPG. Um,
A
it's
bit,
like kind
yeah.
of a little bit like Monster Collection RPG stuff, or a bit of its own subgenre. Um,
Mhm.
but I mean, we played a little bit of Dragon Warrior Monsters, on the Game Boy Color.
Ooh.
Um, yeah, I think those would have been sort of the earliest ones that my brother and I played.
Mhm.
Um, my first Final Fantasy was Final Fantasy VII on PC. Um, and then I think I got Final Fantasy Tactics on the Game Boy Advance.
Mm.
Um, but I mean, that was also around the it was also around the same time as like Golden Sun. Like I actually played Final Fantasy much later than uh the other
The other games
than
that came
other
out.
RPGs. It was
Yeah.
also it was not my I borrowed it from a friend in high school. Uh, and so like I don't have like I returned it when I finished it. Um,
Yeah.
but it's also I mean looking back at the graphics, since you can get it for like I don't know $7 on the eShop. I have
Yep.
no desire to return to Final Fantasy VII. But I've never played Final Fantasy VI. You know, just always seen the artwork for it. So a lot of my experience with video game RPGs was seeing these really cool ads or write ups and artwork in gaming magazines.
Yep.
Um, and so because they always had the coolest artwork. Um, and so that was my experience. And so like reading about these things, uh, you know, I had issues where I mean the big one, yeah, Breath of Fire 3 and Saga Frontier, and I'm pretty sure Master of Monsters, like a remake of Master of Monsters, was also in there, uh,
Yeah.
which is um, you could call it a monster collection game, but it's like a strategy game, turn based strategy.
Okay.
Um, and your monsters are units, and you can breed monsters to get new kinds of monsters. And so like you would have base unit types, and you can combine them with other unit types to get like more specialized stuff.
Mhm.
And so there was like a
Cool.
whole tree of dragons, and then a whole tree of like giant, and then a whole tree of like goblin.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah,
Cool.
uh,
Well, I hope well,
yeah,
I hope that you're able to find it somewhere.
me too. Because I also checked like archives, like to see if anybody, because like there's a couple like gaming magazine archives where people have like scanned their old gaming magazines and uploaded
Oh,
them
yeah.
so that like it's preserved. I mean,
Yep.
you know, like there's not going to be. I highly doubt there's going to be back issues at the library of a very niche gaming, because EGM Squared didn't last for real. It was like a 6 month run, I think. Um,
Yeah.
like between like 6 months to 2 years. So not a lot of issues. So very
Yeah.
unlikely to find it in a library somewhere.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
so, but I couldn't find that either. Like no PDFs of it.
Uh, keep looking, I'm sure something'll come along.
Yeah, maybe. I've kind
Hey,
of given up
you
hope
know
at this point, but
yeah,
all right.
but
Anyway, uh, before we continue rambling on, why don't
yep.
we get to quest log and then round this episode out?
Yeah.
Quest log is where we talk about what sort of geeky stuff we have on our to-do list, what we've accomplished in the past week, and what we would like to accomplish in the upcoming week.
Mhm.
So, Courtney, you weren't here, so what do you have on the agenda for the upcoming week?
I have on the agenda for the upcoming week because, hey, y'all, I finished my classes. That was a goal of mine was to survive, and finish my classes. So I finished my classes strong. Just have to finish my internship for the rest of the summer. Um, I can do it. I know I can. But now that that kind of stress is away a little bit, I do want to get back into reading Candlekeep, and get one more adventure read this week. Uh, and I'd also like to catch up on Critical Role. Um, so I wanna see if I'm able to do that tonight or,
Well, you are the binging queen, so
oh, yeah, I got halfway through last night, but I tired and anxious and just needed to go to sleep. Um,
yeah, and the episodes in between where you left off and now would not help,
yeah, yeah.
to
So,
say the least.
I
Yeah.
did make it over the hurdle, but so I still have to just finish up this past week's episode so I can hopefully be able to watch live this week. Um,
Cool.
yeah, so that's my goal is one adventure and catch up on Critical Role.
Cool.
So, what about you, Sean? I know you've been doing a
So I got 3 out of 4 done. I did not create a new illustration for a divine holy symbol for Jamora, but I did manage to color an old comic. Uh, did make a TikTok video, short, little 12 to 15 second TikTok video featuring Office Manager Monty,
yeah,
our office manager. Um, I did a new Berkshire Bites logo
which
that
looks
is approved
amazing.
by my wife, who is my co-host for that. Um, it's it prepping. That's not an announcement of when it's coming back. We still don't know. There's so many variables that go into that. Uh, Not the least of which is having an infant. Um, is the pandemic and the infant are the two biggest variables in that. And then of course the third one is what is still open. So there are a number of places that were on our list that have permanently closed. Um,
Yeah, unfortunately,
so
the
uh,
pandemic took a big hit to the restaurant industry.
yeah, there may need to be a reshuffling um, of the lists to see like what's new, what's left. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah. Uh, So yeah, as far as this upcoming week, again, keeping with coloring a comic, I want to get back on track with that. Um,
Yo.
my goal is to design 2 more monsters, specifically for the Jamora book. So I have done 2 so far,
Okay.
that I think are pretty dope. As the kids from the 2000s era say, uh, possibly the 90s era, maybe even the 80s, uh, are pretty rad.
I was gonna say, are we saying that it's radical?
Um, so yeah, so 2 more monsters, because I would like to try and figure out like what sort of monsters would be unique in Jamora, um, or sort of showcase what would be good about Jamora, um, and then I think make another TikTok video.
Yeah.
Um, so because a couple of things that I want to do is number one, obviously cute dog videos. That's everybody loves cute dog videos. But
Oh,
I also
yes.
think
I love me
maybe doing
videos.
world building advice, like little quick tidbits of world building advice. I think would be fun to do as well.
Yeah.
Um,
I
so
mean, I
yeah,
refuse to get on TikTok, but I do love watching the videos.
it's not as bad as I thought it was gonna be. Um, I also do think that they do a much better job at curating um, their algorithm than like Facebook and Twitter do, um,
Mhm.
and Instagram. Um, so I mean, most of the stuff that I'm seeing on my feed in TikTok, uh, is stuff that like I actually find interesting or funny. So kudos to you, TikTok team. I was wrong in my old manness.
Hey, that's enjoy.
Yeah.
Hey, you
So
needed something to replace Twitter.
yeah, Twitter's just
Yeah.
I pop back on every now and again, but like I don't post anything, but just to like scroll a little bit, and it's just I can't.
Yeah, I think the most that I'm on
And
Twitter
I will
is when
say
I get sent
it's
things.
part of that is um like that's not to say that the stuff is necessarily unjustified. Um,
It's overwhelming.
but it's I could use Twitter if the state of the world was better. Let's put it that way. Uh,
I like
and
that.
it's not,
That's a solid way to put that.
and it's
Yep.
not, and so there's a lot of folks that are unhappy. Um,
Mhm.
and I mean, and the problem is like you could just say, well, just unfollow those folks that are just always unhappy, but it's also those folks are content creators who create content that I watch or I
Yeah.
use or I enjoy. Um,
Mhm.
and so it's also wanting to hear about that. Um,
Yep.
but
Yeah, it's a difficult tightrope sometimes
oh,
to
for sure, for sure.
yeah.
Um, oh, I lost my train of thought. Oh, it's also I feel like I'm like also missing out on a bunch of like news for the podcast by not being on Twitter. Because that was where I was pulling a lot of the really weird and interesting stuff. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I
um, just because I've no because now we're having like unless I see it on Facebook,
mhm.
now I'm having to go to websites to try and get the gaming news, and a
Yep.
lot of it is either like it's not what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I
or
think
it's like
that
opinion
that's I think that
pieces.
that's
There's a
fair.
lot of just opinion pieces going on right now, and I don't know if that's
Mhm.
just things are slow. So yeah, it's like why do I even bother?
Yeah. No,
Like you're finding
it's
stuff that's not just
definitely
like, oh, there's a new graphics card that gives you 24 more teraflops, and it's like, I mean, great, but that's not the kind of news that we're looking for. Uh,
yeah.
and it'll be like the same news that gets regurgitated among every gaming site.
I mean, you can only have Elon Musk come out with flamethrowers once.
I'm really just over Elon Musk. I really am. I can't. I can't.
He's he's
He's
wearing
done.
thin on me too, but I will never forget those flamethrowers. Never.
Yeah, I don't. I still don't. That I mean, that didn't put him in a good light for me to begin with. Like that was when we declared him uh, uh, evil supervillain then, like back then, and my stance hasn't changed. Like because that's the kind of person like providing low cost flamethrowers to people. Like that's a supervillain move.
I mean, it's a super move and it's a villainous move,
That is a Norman
but
Osborn move.
fair.
So, all right, that is going to wrap things up for this week. So, if you want to see more content from 8-Bit Adventures, be sure to check out 8-bitadventures.com. Over there, you can find comics, podcasts, streams, artwork, and more. If you want to help support that content, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/8bitadventures. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month, and you get
Mhm.
early access to comics, exclusive patrons only comics. Um, if you subscribe, excuse me, one moment. At the $2 and up level, you get access to Jamora playtest content,
Mhm.
as well as playtest content for other projects. Um, and you get a discount on merch.
Mhm.
Oh, point of fact is, unfortunately, the tri-blend material for the Speedy t-shirt is no longer available in that color. So unfortunately, it is now being moved to 100% combed and ring spun cotton. Um, so also unfortunately, no longer American Apparel. That's the options that I have for suppliers. Um, I guess, but as a positive, it's like $8 cheaper now. So there's
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
So the t-shirt's now $22 instead of 30. So,
Well,
but
just be
as
mindful with the cotton.
yeah, as a patron, you get a 10% discount um, off those orders. Uh, if you use the specific code that you will find in the rewards section. So,
Yeah.
last up, our opening theme is One Up by Professor Shy Guy. You can find his work over at professorshyguy.bandcamp.com. Go over there, support his work, and say thanks for us.
Yeah.
And with that, we are done. So, as always, have fun, everyone. Happy gaming, and enjoy your pie cake.
Bye, everybody.